Hi, this is Ed Lawrence with Colliers, and the interview for the second quarter of 2024 for our quarterly newsletters is with Jason Rigone. He is the acting Director of Planning and Development for the Industrial Development Corporation of Westmoreland County. It just rolls off the tongue so well for me, right? Thanks so much for being with us today, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to speak.
No, we really appreciate it. And first off, congratulations on your recognition through NAIOP that just occurred last week. With the timing of what we're doing right now. So, yeah, that was well-deserved recognition and a great night.
I appreciate that. That was it was a lot of fun. Really, the backstory to that as well is I always recognize I was being recognized, but I was standing on behalf of the staff and the team and all the partners that we work with, because without them, none of this would happen. And my mentor, Larry Reese, was honored with the same award 25 years ago, and so it was special to be able to kind of duplicate or replicate that effort.
Yeah, that's great. And I was going to actually bring him up as your mentor and so forth. You beat me to the punch, but I thought maybe, did you want to provide a little bit of background from a personal standpoint, and then also your career and what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm a Westmoreland County guy, born and raised.
Mm-hmm.
So I certainly have a personal affection for this county and this community, and I think that probably shows every day, because we are so personally connected. That being said, I got started here with the department generally when I was in college. I had my internship here.
Okay.
And really got ingrained in community planning. That's where I got my start. That's really kind of what my background is, or at least education-wise.
That's great.
I've been working here since I got out of college. I only know one thing, and that's county planning and economic development.
That's great. It shows the importance of internships for sure.
Does.
So no doubt. And over your years in your role, and I guess leading up to it, just curious if there are any particular developments that you worked on that really resonate the most with you, or maybe it's something that where you overcame some challenges and really saw the kind of the fruits of your labor for yourself and for the county in particular.
Sure. Certainly there's projects that are, and this is all relative, that are easier than others, and others that are more challenging than others.
Right.
I think that if I had to place my finger on one or two in particular, I think the first one, I think I talked about this during the NIOP interview, was the transformation of the former Jeanette Glass site.
Okay.
When I came into this organization, my predecessor we were developing the property adjacent to that, which is now the Jeanette Industrial Park. The site next to that was owned by a private developer out of New York that did nothing with the site other than let the building and the site deteriorate. Okay. And because it was so close to the downtown area, it had that impact, that negative impact to the city itself in Jeanette. In 2012-ish, for whatever reason, the property owners forgot to pay their taxes for 2 years in a row, and through those relationships and partnerships with the city, the local city solicitor, Scott Avolio, said, "Hey, I know you guys have always been interested in buying this site and redeveloping it."
Right.
They didn't pay their taxes, so does the corporation want to jump in and take a run at this? And my board was wholeheartedly in support. And so, not to tell the whole story, but
yeah.
It was that little opening, that little window that, because of those partnerships in terms of local communications, we said, we slid through that door, and then 4 years worth of litigation with the property owner. We were the proud property owners of 13 acres of really terrible buildings and environmentally impacted property.
Right.
So we
Hooray.
won the day. Yeah, exactly. And so at that point, what makes the project so interesting is as soon as we closed on the property, one of our major manufacturers, one of our larger employers, LA Company, contacted us and said, "Hey, we're looking at making a major investment, and we'd really like to do it on that site because of proximity to their main operations, which they couldn't expand on any longer."
Right.
And they said, "We need the property in 18 months." And so if you're familiar with redevelopment, just to get your Act 2 clearance, takes a lot longer than 18 months.
That timeline is
let alone tearing everything down, you know,
Right.
doing earth moving, cleaning up the site. Fortunately, because again, those relationships and those partnerships that we have, whether it's at the state level with our state delegation, being able to access capital, our friends at DCED, DEP came on board and helped us be able to program the project to be able to secure the Act 2 clearance, develop the site, create the pad that was necessary for Elliott, and kind of fast forwarding to today, there's $60 million worth of investment on the site, jobs,
Right.
taxes being generated, and so we embrace it,
Yep.
obviously from the economic development perspective. Putting on my planning and community development cap, certainly embrace it and understand and appreciate the effect because of what it means to the community.
Right.
So those types of projects, really those things that I think that the day that retirement comes, those are the things you look back on and smile. And I will tell you this, Ed, I live in North Huntington. I drive to Greensburg every day. Jeanette's in between those two.
Yeah.
Every once a week, I'll drive by the site, look at the site, and remind myself that if you have a clear vision, if you have good, strong partnerships,
Right.
and if you work diligently with a good team, you can achieve just about anything.
What a great impact. Yeah, terrific story. Thanks for sharing
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
for sure. And I think I've mentioned to you personally, you know, my wife grew up in Scottsdale, and her parents moved all the way to Mount Pleasant. So I'm out this way just about every weekend, so just love to hear that. I know my father-in-law is always interested in what's happening around here, so it's nice having the inside track. Looking ahead for Westmoreland County, you know, what challenges do you see on the horizon that you think about the most, I guess, as for the county?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there. I think granularly from an industrial development corporation, things that we're challenged with, and I think a lot of our partners throughout the region and state is the cost of developing sites. You know, we've got to continue to develop properties and make them ready. Southwestern Pennsylvania is a challenging environment because of the hills and the valleys and the streams and the wetlands and those types of things, and they all cost money. And every day, I think we've all seen the cost because of inflationary issues makes those projects even more challenging.
For sure.
And so I think that, you know, from a development perspective, is making sure that we have product that's ready to go to support our business community. That's what we're in the business for. You know, the cost of projects continues to escalate.
Right.
And so we're always looking for ways to, certainly advocating for the state to create new flexible programs that can support development. But I think more across the county, what I see as a challenge is labor. We're seeing this.
Right.
As our demographics change, we're challenged with making sure that we have sufficient skilled, quality labor force to support business expansions.
Has a familiar ring to it. Yeah, it's a lot of counties are faced with this similar challenge.
Yeah, and I don't think it's anything unique to Westmoreland or the region or even the
No.
Commonwealth. I think that it is really it's an issue that's being felt across the country.
Yep.
We just want to make sure that we are proactive on addressing it.
Right.
But that being said, businesses, that's one of the decision-making factors that they look at now. They do their labor analysis as much as they look at what's the cost of that project. So
Right.
you know, the idea of making sure that we have a strong labor force is something that we want to keep our eye on, be proactive on addressing it.
Gotcha. And in terms of long-term strategies, as much as you're, you know, willing to share, do you have any strategies in place to try and meet those challenges moving forward that you'd like to talk about today with us?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you approach that question in a way whether I would share it. I would think that the way that we tackle things is not necessarily in secret. We do these things. It is a competitive environment, right? We compete with our neighbors.
Right.
We compete with other regions.
Sure.
But we always feel like the way success happens is by having strong partnerships and sharing best practices.
Right.
You know, I think that if there's 3 strategies that we're focusing on here locally, let's just stay with the labor aspect. Our partners right down the hall here at the Economic Growth Connection are taking the lead on re-envisioning education and skill development from K to 12, and secondary all the way through post-secondary.
Right.
The idea is that we are recognizing what are the labor needs. When I say labor, that could be from someone that is a true laborer all the way up to somebody that needs a college education.
Mm-hmm.
What we're trying to do is say these are the needs of the region, of the county from a labor perspective,
Okay.
and making sure they understand the pathways. The goal is that if they have the right education and the right skill set, they can fill a local job.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps people local, and that helps with our demographic challenges that we're seeing.
Right.
So labor is one of those strategies, and kind of working through what we call the Westmoreland County Forum for Workforce Development, where all the school districts are participating directly at the superintendent level.
That's great.
Creating those career pathways that are tied to the local business community on the needs that are here locally.
Right.
Second strategy is always making sure that we're focused on our infrastructure and our site development. Making sure we have infrastructure that can support business growth. I think every community, I don't think that's any secret, everybody's looking at that.
Right.
But being proactive and being aggressive and risk-taking on site development. We talked about the Jeanette Glass site. We went into it and said, hey, we've got to pay off $350,000 worth of back taxes, let alone clean up an old industrial site with no understanding if we're going to have a prospect for it.
Yep.
You've got to be willing to take a risk and make the necessary investment. Another good example is our partnership with the RIDC at the New Kensington Advanced Manufacturing Park.
Yep.
We're going to need millions of dollars over a long period of time to really position that property to
Right.
attract the next rebuild manufacturing, but we're willing to take on that risk.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last item, I think, from a strategic standpoint is technology adoption.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that is at the labor level, and making sure that when we're doing education and training, that those individuals are learning and adopting technology, but also with our business community as well. It's becoming it has been and continues to be, and it's growing, being globally competitive, especially at the manufacturing level.
Right.
Making sure that we are creating programs that allows those manufacturers, especially those small, medium-sized companies that don't have the resources to rely on coming in, is that we're helping them adopt technology so that they remain competitive,
Right.
allows them to grow, employs more people, and has an economic impact that we're looking for.
Yeah, it's interesting, I guess, because companies need to adopt or adapt to the technology and adopt it to remain competitive. At the same time, you have to make sure that that labor pool
Sure.
is also keeping up with that. And I guess as part of your role is to help maybe marry the two as best you can, if I said that properly.
No, I think that you're spot on, and I think that if you looked inside of our county comprehensive plan, that comes from the county planning department,
Mhm.
right? Those items are embedded within that strategy, and so we're
Right.
able then to take it through our partnerships with, whether it's, I mentioned the Economic Growth Connection, or whether it's working with the Digital Foundry that's in New Kensington, or whether we're doing it through corporation with developing sites in partnership with the RIDC or other locations.
Right.
We're taking those strategies and implementing them throughout the county.
Yeah, I took a tour at the open house in New Canaan. That was great. Yeah, it was a wonderful afternoon to be able to walk this space and get an understanding of how those folks are being trained to be able to meet those future needs. So that's awesome. I guess just to round things out, you've had so much experience, as you mentioned, from being an intern, if you will, now to helping to lead the overall program, if you will. What lessons have you learned over that time that maybe, if you were to sit down with someone that's getting ready to take a leadership role at another county in Western PA or even elsewhere in the country, what words of advice would you give them in terms of lessons that you've learned and how you've evolved?
Yeah, I think I would probably focus on 3 Ps.
Okay.
Patience, persistence, and partnerships. We mentioned the Jeanette Glass site, and probably even more when you look at one project that we completed with Commerce Crossing at Westmoreland down in just off of Interstate 70. That project took 11 years from idea concept to selling the first piece of property. So you have to be patient. Things don't happen overnight. We understand the permitting process, fundraising, just everything that comes with developing large sites. Complicated, complex sites takes time, so you have to be patient.
Right.
persistent. You can never give up. If you want something to be done, if it's worth doing, you be persistent. You work with your local community, you work with your state leadership, you work with whoever you need to, but in order to get it done, you have to be persistent and not give up.
Right.
And then lastly, partnerships. And in any conversation I ever have, you'll hear that roll off out of my mouth, off the tongue.
Yep.
Partnerships are so important. We have to understand that we can't do everything by ourselves or in a vacuum. We have to recognize and embrace others that are out there. Good examples of a great partnership is, and again, even structurally, is our partnership with the RIDC. And the value, like we do a lot of the same things. And someone will say, why do you want to bring in almost like a competing entity? I don't see them as competing. I see them bringing in resources and talent that augment what we do and allows us then to go do other things in the county as well. So patience, be patient, be persistent, and embrace partnerships.
That's great. Yeah, really good advice. And speaking on behalf of Colliers, we really value our partnership, with the county and working with you folks all the time.
Certainly.
I know we've talked before. We admire the work that you do and the team that you've built around you. So continued success.
And I think I'm glad you said that because the partnerships I talk about, I kind of talk about more on the nonprofit government side of things, the business sector, whether it's Colliers, whether it is a development company, whoever it may be, the private business themselves, they are certainly part of that partnership that makes any organization or any community successful. So thank you always for your team's partnership.
Yeah, no worries at all. And again, thanks so much for your time. I really enjoyed the conversation.
I appreciate you guys coming in.
All right, you bet. Take care. Thanks, Jason.